Okay, everybody. Yeah. Been on fire lately. So I did this breakthrough body challenge. We just got done today. We had over 50 people in it and it was a huge awakening. And one of the things that a lot of people responded to with this wow, like, what? Was this 2 concepts that I'm gonna kinda bridge together to share. So, most of you know that I am kind of passionate and slightly obsessed with this idea of if we change our bodies, right? Um, that, basically loving the skin we're in will create a completely different world. And the reason why I'm so obsessed is because I know what it's like to spend over 20 years of my life from the ages of 15 to 35 struggling with my body weight, with my body image, with self esteem. And I wasn't really struggling with my weight as in I was overweight. I was just so in my head that I yo yoed to the tune of over 2,500 pounds in 20 years. So we're talking somewhere between losing and gaining somewhere between 40 and 50 pounds a year. Couple years it was more than 100 pounds, couple years it was not as much. But it was this lifelong battle inside my head, and I was on a mission to change the dynamic and change the story and get underneath the surface and see what was actually going on. And when I discovered sort of a way out, it changed my life. And so I taught that level of change for about a decade. And then back in January of 2022, I started struggling with menopause and menopause symptoms, and not just the hot flashes. It was the one night I woke up in the morning and all of a sudden none of my clothes fit. All of a sudden I had this like tube around my belly. And, people say that it happens and I didn't believe it. And I especially didn't believe that I would be susceptible to menopause symptoms, but I was. And I woke up with a tube around my waist and I woke up and I couldn't lose the weight. And I started having anxiety and panic attacks. And, never before in my life, except for when I was going through my divorce, I had 2 panic attacks. But all of a sudden, I was having like real panic attacks and anxiety through the roof and lethargy and depression and symptoms that I don't remember experiencing for a very long time. I had this level of I don't care about life. Why am I even here? I had no energy to build my business. I had no desire to even create. I was just kind of surviving. And so a year and a half ago, I went back to the drawing board and I was like, okay, I'm going to use the tools I know that got me out of my struggle in the first place. Well, they weren't working and nothing I was doing was working. And I went to doctors and I got, the blood tests and the urine sample and try to get my gut fixed and like all these things. And yes, certain things did help. Not going to lie. But I dove into what I do best, which is I research and then I use myself as an experiment to see and if any of you are watching this on any of my social media channels, you are welcome to join me and chat live with me on my website. And the way that you do that is katherinemcintosh.com/connect, and I'll be able to answer any of your questions. Kind of gonna do a short-ish video, won't do a really long one. But here's what I discovered, and this is what I was sharing on my breakthrough body challenge, which we just finished today. And everyone was like, what? This is like a game changer. So here's the thing, we've been taught to clear or take the problem to the therapist or try and constantly bang our head against what we think is the problem. And most of us try to identify or label, right, or diagnose the problem so that we can then go looking for the solution that apparently matches the diagnosis, right? Well, 99% of the time, the diagnosis is not the exact thing. The diagnosis is the symptom. The symptom presents itself. So we can certainly treat the symptom, but it won't solve the problem because you're just treating the symptom. You're not actually treating what's at the core. And so, what I've realized at the core of why most women in particular, men as well, but why most women struggle with their weight, struggle with the weight gain, is because over time, after struggling initially, they develop an identity that they have a problem with their body. They develop a diagnosis that they have a slow thyroid, or they develop a diagnosis that they have a slow metabolism, or that their body is problematic, or that they're big boned. And none of those are the real reason why you might be struggling to not just take the weight off, but to keep it off long term. And so since February, I've been on this quest to really look at how do I solve this problem? Because I know in the past, when I tend to solve a problem with the body, it tends to work for other people as well. Not just hundreds, but thousands of people all over the world. And I'm on this mission to see what it would be like if we could get 4 billion people out of struggling with their body, out of thinking that they're the problem, out of, so yeah, that's a big number, half the population, no big deal, right? But here's what I know is we'd change the world. We'd have a more intimate relationships. We'd have more in-depth conversations. We'd be willing to be more vulnerable with each other. We wouldn't be covering up our insecurities. We'd be talking about them and not making them such a big deal. And so I've been on this mission. And so when I dove in February, I was in probably the lowest point of my life in this journey, and to the tune of, like, not that I would consider not being here anymore. I have a 10-year-old. I'm sticking it out, but that I just didn't know what the point of being here was anymore. I wouldn't do anything about that feeling, but the feeling was there. And, I'm a coach. I help people feel better about themselves. I help discover and uncover those root wounds. I help awaken these things. And I've found some things that help do it even quicker. And so, one of the things that really came out of this challenge was this, and this is what I've been researching, is when you are in a problem, especially around your weight, you begin to activate. So, when you don't feel good about yourself, you're living in a chronic state of fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, which means that you've now activated your nervous system to be in problem solving mode, to be in survival mode. And when the nervous system is in survival mode, it activates certain brain chemicals that also create this survival mode. It raises your cortisol levels, your stress hormone, because it's trying to look for survival. And so then all of a sudden you're in survival mode and you go on a diet or eat, cleaner, or do a cleanse, or start an exercise program. But if your nervous system is in survival mode and the actions you're taking are supposed to be effective to create weight loss results, your body is not going to go in weight loss mode. It's going to go in survival mode. And what in survival mode, we hang on to calories. There might not be food around, right? We're back in the caveman days of you don't know when you're going to eat, but we have food available around us almost all the time. And so here you are eating a salad or eating clean or eating cooked vegetables or, taking action because you truly desire change. But what you haven't looked at is if you take the action, but don't heal the nervous system, it doesn't matter how clean you eat, you'll never lose the weight, but even more, if you do lose the weight, it won't stay off long term and you'll go back to your yo-yoing, you're up and down feeling depressed, feeling inadequate, ashamed about your body, maybe feeling insecure, and then when you're insecure, you don't make the best life choices. And so, one of the things that's really profound, at least this is what I find is profound, is that Most people who struggle with their body weight and body image and food, right? They have this constant survival mode where they don't feel safe in their bodies and they don't feel safe with food. And so, guess what? The alarm bells go off, the cortisol, what just happened? There we go. The cortisol levels increase. Like all of a sudden, there's all this stuff going on, and you're like, oh my God, but you don't even know it, which is why the weight hasn't come off, and especially why the weight, if you do end up losing it, like a quick diet or quick fix, it doesn't stay off long term. And so these 2 things I've found are pretty prevalent in people's systems who struggle with their body weight and have spent most of their lives trying to seek a solution that they haven't been able to find. And here's what they are. One is you chances are if this relates to you and you do struggle, it means that you probably have a people pleaser. You're a people pleaser. So you're constantly making sure everybody else is happy. You're constantly sort of tending to other people's needs way before you'll tend to your own. And most of the time, what that means is you never actually get your needs met. You never really nurture or take care of yourself because you're always giving up what's important to you to make sure everybody else is taken care of. So the first thing to do is to fire your people pleaser, right? Because the people pleaser, and I shared this story, the people pleaser, if you were like me back in my 20s, 30s, even part of my 40s, right? I was a giant people pleaser. It's something I adopted and adapted to in order to survive a toxic environment when I was growing up, in order to survive all the toxic relationships I chose. I tried to make everybody else happy. It's why I'm really good at what I do, right? But the more I fire my people pleaser, the more my nervous system regulates, my cortisol levels drop. And when your cortisol levels are raised, it's nearly impossible to lose weight. And so if you are midlife and you're used to exercising like I was, and you continue on that exercising path, but your nervous system isn't regulated and your cortisol levels are still high, you'll then have the opposite effect. So you'll be working out more, and instead of losing the weight or staying trim or toned, you'll start putting on weight. That's a sign, no matter how much you're exercising, if you're not able to change the shape and the feel and the tone of your body, if you're eating clean and doing the right things and nothing's changing, is because your cortisol levels are spiked. And so we have to learn how to heal the nervous system. Right? And so the first thing you wanna do is you wanna fire your people pleaser, right? I always tell people, I'm a recovering people pleaser. It is no longer my job to people please. It is my job to practice working on myself, right? And be selfish. Selfish gets a bad rap, but when you take care of yourself first, just like when you're in an airplane and they say, put your mask on first, when you take care of yourself first, you're resourced. When you're resourced, you can help others. You can show up for others. You can be present in your life. You can have more intimacy and vulnerability and emotional connection and engagement in all of your relationships, including your relationship with yourself. So that's number one. And it's one of the reasons why you probably haven't been able to gain weight. Lose weight. So when I was in Quito, Ecuador, back in my early 20s, my people pleaser came out in this way. I went to a baptism in the middle of the mountains, about an hour and a half bus ride outside of Quito. And we were at this on this land at these people's home, and the home was built out of bricks. It had a metal roof that was not stable like it wasn't structured down. It was literally just tin placed on top of bricks. As you went into these bricks, it was a dirt floor, and these people had prepared to have not a baptism, a first communion. And so they took like what they could find outside in nature, like stumps, like rocks, piles of rocks and other things. And then they took pieces of wood and they placed the pieces of wood across, two stumps for a bench. And so they had about, I don't know, 20 people in their tiny little brick home with a tin roof, right? They were cooking outside in the back off of a handmade fire, right? And they were passing around. They had probably saved for months, if not longer, in order to feed these people this caldo de gallina, which is basically chicken broth, chicken soup with carrots and celery and onions and other things, mushrooms. There was a bunch of stuff in it. But there was this chicken, and the chicken was not cooked. And here is this, 8-year-old boy who had just so proud of his second communion or his first communion in second grade. And he's bringing this soup to all of the people that were his guests that were invited to celebrate with him. And they bring me this bowl of chicken soup, and the chicken is bloody. And there is blood coming out of the chicken, and like the skin on the chicken was still like, not cooked. Like, it was clear that it was still raw, and I wanted to say no, but the people pleaser in me looked at this little boy, looked at the state of this family's living situation, and I went, "Well, I've had a really good life, and I'm not gonna say no to this boy. I'm not gonna offend this family. I'm gonna people please." And I knew as I took the soup that I was gonna get sick. I knew it. So my people pleaser, right, was willing to sacrifice my self-care, my sanity, my digestion, my good gut microbiome, all that stuff. I was willing to sacrifice that in order to please this 8-year-old boy. And so I ate the soup. And a couple hours later, I am basically in the middle of a cornfield in the town square because there were no bathrooms and there was no corn. So it was a vacant cornfield with stalks that you could see through. And I end up out both ends in the middle of a public place because there were no public bathrooms. And when we were at the house, it was a hole right outside the brick wall. So everyone would have been hearing me get sick. And so I walked about 10 minutes until I couldn't hold it any longer. And that marked a long journey of me struggling with my health, struggling with my digestion, struggling with my good gut microbiome and good gut bacteria, which also means that my intuition suffered, which also means that I went down a rabbit hole for many years. And so when our people pleaser is running the show, we are literally keeping the nervous system in a high state of stress, which means that your body cannot lose weight. It's a huge aha. Okay. So that's part one. And part 2 is that most of us are designed, especially if you're a woman, to fix. Let me fix. Let me fix the problem. Let me fix my husband. Let me fix, whatever it is. Now we call on men to fix the toilet and fix the leak in the house and fix the computer, but we're programmed to try to fix the psychology, right, of people. And that can get us in a lot of trouble because what that means is you are now programmed then, and this happens for a lot of people who grew up in toxic, family environments or unsafe family environments. They just are trained to always look outside of themselves. So when you're a fixer, you're constantly looking outside to feel safe instead of looking inside at what you can do different. And so that combination, and I could go deeper into this. I won't for this moment, but if you'd like me to go deeper, feel free to leave a comment. If you're seeing this on social media and this is hitting a chord, please feel free to share this, right? Because what we've done is we've realized that it is so important to begin to heal those parts of yourself, but you don't heal it by trying to address it from a problematic state. You heal it by doing all these other things, which we did in the Breakthrough Body Challenge. I don't have time to do it in this video, but what I will say is it's probably not the ways that you've ever addressed your body before. You have to address your nervous system. You have to address your cortisol levels. You have to address your fixer. You have to address your people pleaser. And you don't do that by trying to change what you think is the problem. You don't build your dream house on an old foundation. You have to build a new foundation. And when you build this new foundation, then you set the framework for building a new body, for creating a new relationship, for having a long lasting structure that can navigate the winds of change. So if you go through hormones, you're resourced. If you go through a breakup, you're resourced. If you go through a divorce, you're resourced. But most women who haven't been able to lose the weight, this is probably one of the main reasons. And I'm telling you, it is a huge aha when you get it. And so a lot of people go, "Well, Catherine, how do you fix it?" That's a great question, right? I'm not going to go into the details, but I will tell you that I have a brand new program that addresses this exact thing. Right. It's called the Body Shift Awakening Program. And I'm not trying to withhold information from you. I just literally do have a time constraint. But I wanted to get on here because if you think that I'm speaking your language, I want you to click the link, and I'll post the link in my social media channels, right? You can go to katherinemcintosh.com. I believe that I put this on my main page. But I'll go into the social media channels after my next meeting and I'll make sure that it's there. And I want you guys to share this video if it resonates with you. Do an aha, speak it, like share a comment, say a comment if you can relate and this sounds like something you might have struggled with and you go, "Oh, wow, you're speaking my language." I'm going to invite you, if I'm speaking your language, to check out the link, katherinemcintosh.com/body dash shift dash accelerator. It's the Body Shift Awakening Accelerator program designed to accelerate. So I've spent a lot of time on this and it's designed to accelerate the speed at which you navigate this. Now, I opened this up to just the people who did the Breakthrough Body Challenge with me. And I decided that it's so good, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, can I share this with friends?" I decided to open it up to the public. And I'm offering something I have never offered before at a price that I've never offered before. And if you think that I might be a good fit or this program might be a good fit, I'm going to encourage you to check that link out. If you have questions, you can email my team, right? You can email me. I'll read the email. You can send me a message. You can post the comments in Facebook. But here's the deal is what I know is no amount of dieting or restricting or cleansing will truly be effective long term. Now, you might have short term results, right? It just won't be effective long term if you haven't healed your nervous system and taken specific, like energetic, psychological, and physical steps in order to make sure that the diet that you go on creates lasting change. The exercise program you go on creates lasting change. And it's until we change this mindset shift, right? This body awakening shift that I teach, this new system I came up with. Until we do that, and I took the best of the best from over 30 years of studying the experts and the science and the psychology and the neuroscience and the metaphysics. Like I kind of took all of it and put it together in this brilliant program that could be a right fit for you. And, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I can't," right? "Oh, I wish I could." And, a lot of people, until we're ready to choose the solution, right? When we're in fight or flight, we usually choose solutions that are short term because we just want to get out of the pain. But we have to choose solutions from, wow, if I can identify with having a body I don't struggle with finally feeling free, with waking up in the morning and loving the skin I'm in, with not having joint pain, if I can identify as that as a possibility, and from that place, I'm going to look for a solution, then usually when we're in an expanded state, that's when we find the solutions that match long-term results. So that's all I got for you. If this video inspired you, share it, post a comment, send an aha, send a message, but also let me know that you want more of these types of videos because I'm kind of obsessed with the topic and I would love to talk more about it. And in the meantime, right? This program, right? And this special price that I'm offering is only available if you sign up by the 31st. We start August 1st, ready to press the go button. And I just want to thank you for being here. And we'll see you next time. Keep being real, keep staying true to you, and don't ever give up on your dreams because life's too short, my friends. And life's definitely too short to spend your life trying to change your body without having the results that you'd like to see. So, bye for now, and we'll see you next time.